What time's it, Dave?
It's podcast o'clock.
Podcast clock. Still not as good as the E3 clock.
Oh, of
But,
course not.
I don't think anything will ever top that to a degree. Obviously, we're back to the old setup. It's been a while since you've been on. It was E3 last time you were on, was it?
Yeah. It was, what, 2 episodes ago? 3?
Yeah. But, yeah, last couple episodes were a bit dodgy. In terms of the quality as well as but we're back anyways. New setup,
Back with
not
the
new setup,
professionals.
old setup, huh?
Back with the professionals.
100%. But now what are we talking about today? Obviously, David, something we've teased in our last episode.
Well, in this episode, we're going to be talking about one of the greatest games ever made, and we might touch upon 2 of its sequels, which were not some of the best games ever made.
But we like
aspects.
parts of yeah. That's sort of just a teaser in terms of our true feelings, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But no, you were a bit of a latecomer to the series, weren't you?
I think I played Bioshock whenever the remastered trilogy came out. Because I remember you were telling me to play it. Cause it was something
I think I forced your hand into it.
Yeah, and then I binged all 3 of them in like a week.
Yeah.
As I usually do.
Because it was very weird, because I'd only played the first 2. Well, I played half of the second one. I played like the first one far too many times. But I played the second one, like half of it, and I wasn't a fan. But
yeah,
I never played Infinite.
Should stop while you're ahead.
Yeah, no, because I was always excited, because it was like, the team from the first one had come back, it was spiritual successor, all this, right?
Yeah.
And I never got to play it, and I think it was just because it came out, it was like May 2013, and it was the last year of, the Xbox and the PS3.
Yeah.
So I didn't get many games. I think the only game I got around that time was GTA, obviously, in September. I think that was the last game I got for that.
Oh, yeah.
But I never got Infinite, and when I heard about like the collection obviously being remastered, I was like, oh fuck yeah. Because I think it was the anniversary of Bioshock. It was 10th anniversary, I think it was.
I think so, yeah.
It was like 2017, I think, yeah.
Oh my god.
It was mad. It's mad to think that like collection's 4 years old now.
I know, I was about to say, like, I played that 4 years ago, like, oh my god.
Yeah.
And it was mental. But yeah, Bioshock 1, regarded as having one of the best stories in a game.
Not just story, just everything.
Well, yeah, just one of the best games ever made in general.
Yeah.
For good reason.
It does have some faults which we will touch upon.
Oh yeah, every game, it does have weak points.
But we blindly love it.
Yeah, like, its highs greatly outweigh its lows.
And I think it's kind of topical given recently what's kind of happening in the video game world, where games are having really terrible productions. But Bioshock was that diamond in the rough that had a terrible production, but it turned out to be this, masterpiece.
Yeah.
Where do you start? Like, where would you even start with the game, though, literally?
I'm trying to think, there's so much to pick apart with it. It's so... Do we start with the production? Or do we...
I think we should. To a degree, we'll touch on that. I think we should brush past it and then sort of dip into it throughout the episode. When, story elements come up, sort of, but...
Yeah.
They had just done System Shock 2. And highly regarded as one of the best games ever made, all this, great reviews.
Yeah, also...
And, all the reviewers loved it. The team were happy with themselves, and no one played it. No one bought it. Like no one actually bought. That was the big problem.
Yeah, was that the game that put immersive sims on the map?
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
Because the weird thing is System Shock 2. Basically, the whole pitch of Bioshock was its spiritual successor to System Shock 2. That was the big sort of like.
Even the story beats and everything. Like,
oh yeah,
because I actually looked it up because I had heard that System Shock was the spiritual successor. So I was like, I wonder what that's about, and I kind of saw some stuff about the story, and I was like, wait a second here.
because like even like how in like Bioshock you have you're walking to an area and like you have the kind of like the ghosty kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all taken from System Shock 2.
Oh, really?
But it actually makes more sense in Bioshock than it does in System Shock 2.
Yeah.
Because in System Shock 2, there was just like, there's no reason for these ghosts to appear.
Mm.
Whereas in, Bioshock, they obviously make it that,
It's isn't it
the atom,
yeah, it's like the DNA of the other
people that have used it, so that you're just
yeah.
experiencing, their memories, basically. Which is kind of cool. It's very unique way
Yeah.
of doing it.
It's one thing though that wasn't really touched up on. Like it only happens a few times, and whenever it happens, you're kind of like, oh, I want more of this.
Yeah.
Like it's used a bit too sparingly, in my opinion. To
Well,
point
it's
where
mainly used for scenes with, and obviously this is going to be a very spoilery, kind of heavy
oh yeah,
discussion.
if anyone that's listening has not played
Just go play it.
a 14-year-old game,
Yeah.
just play it.
Yeah, just go play it. It's good.
You will not regret playing
It's aged
Bioshock.
very well.
Yeah, you're right about that.
It's very, it is one of those games that will stand the test of time.
Even better, just get the remastered trilogy. You will love it.
It's always on sale. It's always on sale.
That is very true.
But like the weird thing is, it's only they only use it for like I think they use it in a lot of cases, but the main sort of ones that you see are of Andrew Ryan's lover,
Yeah.
who is obviously ends up being your mother.
Isn't that isn't her name like Diane McClintock or something?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I'm trying my best to remember the name.
No,
I remember a
like,
specific.
listen, I knew her name was Diana. I know the last name, so you're doing better than me, alright? But
I was like studying for a test before, and I was like doing like cliff notes and everything. Like, oh god, right, this character's this name, this area.
But no, it's mainly used for her. But she's sort of like seen as like, oh, you don't really know a lot about her. I mean,
Yeah.
like the cool thing is you only kind of use her as
She's kind of like your viewpoint into Rapture from like.
and see more about Ryan as well.
Yeah, Ryan's like behind closed doors personality.
Mm.
And as well as that, you kind of get the glimpse of like all the troubles happening in Rapture before they're
Yeah.
happening,
Yeah.
like kind of while they're happening through the eyes of someone that doesn't really know what's kind of going on. Like how a lot of people, it kind of helps you bring you into that world just that little bit more. So it does, especially with all of her like audio tapes
Yeah.
or audio logs. It's just stuff like that. It's just
Well, I've only kind of realized now as to why those visions make even more sense than it is because you are her son.
is it because yeah, I suppose because you share the DNA.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which is interesting, if you know what I mean.
I never thought about
I've
that.
only kind of thought of that there. It was literally on the spot. But no, obviously, they basically wanted to make a game that was just as good as System Shock 2, that people would play and buy, hopefully. So they basically went around and they were just, they made these small builds where it was just a room. And Ken Levine just went around the country, did like different studios, being like, "Oh, here's our room. Do you wanna?" Because it was different time in gaming. It was more like you
yeah.
had to kind of like pitch your thing.
Yeah.
It's not like now where it's just like every kind of like game developer, you usually they're just big companies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas
Big
they're quite
companies
small.
doing sequels nowadays or
Yeah.
remakes, and back then you had
'Cause
actually had to come up with ideas.
This was innovation. This was yeah. Well, if you think about it, they were basically like an indie studio.
Oh yeah. Well, at the same time, a lot of studios were like that back in 2007.
Yeah, like even GTA. Excuse me, the GTA boys, Rockstar.
Yeah.
But yeah, they obviously eventually got funding, and Bioshock was born. But it had a weird production, and we'll get into it more when we talk about gameplay, I imagine, and story,
Yeah.
I think it's an easier way to sort of
Oh
talk
yeah,
about
but
it.
we can just touch on it, like,
yeah.
because I don't know much about it, like.
So it's just me feeding you. You are the audience. But I think story-wise, it does have one of the best stories.
Oh,
Because everyone talks about the twist, but I think
Yeah.
there's even more than that, if you know what I mean.
Oh,
Because the
between the
story is very
world,
much told through,
like,
Rapture itself.
yeah, like it's like you're going in and you're experiencing the aftermath. Not whenever you start off, you don't have any idea what happened here. You just swim to a lighthouse, and then you're greeted by the amazing statue of Ryan, and you go down the
Mm.
bathysphere, and you have no idea what you're getting yourself into. But whenever you get in, like, your mind just implodes upon
Mm.
everything that's going on.
And it's just through, like, not just, like, the characters you meet,
Yeah, it's like,
but also just in the decay of the actual
yeah,
city. Like, this beautiful Art Deco city that
like
is,
like when I,
amazing in design
yeah, when
is destroyed, basically.
like whenever you're looking at it from the outside, whenever you're first going in, it still looks beautiful until you
Mm.
get inside it.
Mm.
So it does.
Well, I think it's very ballsy that they did that.
Mm.
Where, like, the water physics in that game, from a gameplay standpoint,
Yeah.
like, for 2007 are amazing.
Oh yeah.
Because obviously water is the hardest thing to do next to hair in,
Yeah.
games. But it still stands today, which is kind of,
Well, I mean, whenever you're building a game about a city underwater, you have to get the water
yeah.
right.
But it was kind of ballsy to do that,
Oh,
wasn't
it
it?
was. But like
Because
that's
the whole idea of having the city underwater was they basically wanted. It's kind of just bog standard kind of video game, where it's
yeah.
like, right, so you can confine someone to a certain space.
Yeah, it's like a Far Cry situation where
Yeah, like you're stuck on an island.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like you want to have a reason for being there and staying in the
Mm.
place. Because if you got down to Rapture and then you found out that, well, I mean, you couldn't really leave of your own free will, but like, if
Yeah.
you could,
You didn't know that. Yeah.
yeah, like if you had just went down, saw everything that's going on, you were like, nah, I'm getting back in the bathysphere and getting back
Mm.
up.
Yeah. But because it's so deep down and because it's in ruins and because it is so claustrophobic,
Mm.
you know.
Like,
But it's also the fact that like it's such a perfect from a story standpoint. It is such a perfect game because
oh yeah,
your character isn't a character really,
yeah,
but the reason as to why your character doesn't want to leave is because you yourself don't want to leave.
oh yeah.
You never you want to find more about this city, more about it, and the more you go into it, you always go into like these complete, like Arcadia, for example.
Oh yeah.
You go and meet Xander Cohen, my favorite character in the entire game.
Yeah, it's always like how would you put it? The characters that you would expect to be in them lists would be in them
Yeah.
lists.
It's always like the same, like when you see top 5 albums of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Beatles,
Yeah.
usually top 5.
Yeah.
Dark Side of the Moon. It's always no, you know what I mean.
Oh yeah.
Just the ones you expect to be, and then whatever's the most popular album that year. That's just the way it is. Like, but no, like
it has. I would say one of the best examples of environmental storytelling I've ever seen in a game. Like it is phenomenal. Like it kind of feels the same way like playing a Bethesda game would. Where
yeah.
like even like an area wouldn't have a quest or anything, it's just a little side area, but you go in and through like looking at all the stuff around, like just say you listen to an audio log, or you just even have a look around some rooms and you can kind of figure out what happened to the people in those rooms or in this environment just by like just examining the environment, which is honestly amazing.
Well, it is kind of weird because like the only humans you actually meet, the only humans you ever kind of hear are either through audio logs or over the radio.
Yeah.
There's very few instances where you actually meet humans. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or the mini bosses would be the only thing I can think of, like actual NPCs.
Yeah, because like the splicers are just. You get to hear these voices in the audio logs of people from the past and what they were really like, and then you just see what they've become. It's just such natural sort of. It's just such natural storytelling.
Yeah.
And like obviously like the Big Daddies, for example. You know, it's just, like you're sort of like, what the fuck is this? Like,
Yeah, like whenever you see one of them for the first time and it just fucking destroys the guy with its drill arm
yeah,
and right in
great
front of you.
introduction.
Oh yeah, like whenever you see that there, it immediately clicks. I don't need to go. I don't have to go anywhere near that thing.
Yeah. Well, I never realized this until I was, excuse me, listening to Ken Levine talk about this. But by the way, there, for people listening, if there isn't, there's a great documentary that accompanies the Bioshock remastered, which is Ken Levine's been interviewed with another one of the game directors by none other than Jeff Keighley. But no, I think he was talking about, he was just he didn't want cutscenes.
Oh yeah.
Like every time Ryan talks to you, it's never actually a cutscene.
Oh yeah.
It's always like it's within the world.
It's just a big screen sitting in front of you that you can easily just walk past.
Yeah.
And not listen to him.
Yeah. Because like the only time you really ever get a break in the game is when you're going through like from one area to the next.
Yeah.
And you have loading screen. But like it's kind of, you know how it is this enclosed open world in a way, where it is basically an open world level. It's just where I think it helps because you're allowed to like have this sense of freedom. If you know what I mean.
It's
where like
really,
there is no out of bounds areas and stuff.
Well, it's one of the strong points of the game, I'd say, is the level design. Like most of the levels are unique areas, but at the same time, they do all feel claustrophobic because there is always that thing in the back of your head, like I'm stuck in this area of
deep
rapture,
underwater.
deep underwater. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know that like you can't go outside, or you can't. There is like feasible reasons to why you're confined, which I really like.
But then there's also stuff like the actual like I think this is a big topic, but it's like the whole basis of it, but like the whole philosophical ideals behind it, which is obviously Ayn Rand.
One of the biggest, but I think it's like probably one of the biggest points of the entire game, isn't it?
Yeah, well,
one of the biggest themes.
It literally, the game would not have been as interesting.
Yeah.
Because like the first time you see Andrew, because Andrew Ryan is obviously meant to represent so many different like figures in history. He's meant to represent like Walt Disney, for example. You get that kind of like Walt Disney-esque, where this is almost like for me, I always found he was very much like Orson Welles, and he was very much like Charles Foster Kane in the film Citizen Kane. No, you've not seen it, but
yeah,
it's just that that kind of a character, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But like from the introduction of Rapture. Where you're in the biosphere thing, whatever it's called, and you're being sent down.
I think that might be one of my favorite like speeches that he has in the game.
Just such a good introduction.
Yeah, because he's trying to interrogate you while at the same time trying to like show off what he's built to you.
Yeah.
Because he thinks that you're like some sort of government agent. So he's trying to like the way I get it is like whenever you're going down, he's kind of flaunting like I did this, your government couldn't.
Yeah. So like it's such a great introduction, not just to that character and the world, but just his own philosophical beliefs.
His own ideologies, like.
And like you think immediately, oh my god, this is such a good idea, and it's meant to be, because I think that's the best way to show, because the whole philosophical belief is objectivism, forged by Ayn Rand.
Yeah.
What?
I was just saying, like, every man for himself.
Yeah, but like obviously seen mainly in the book, the Fountainhead, which Ken Levine was reading at the time, and later Atlas Shrugged, and basically everything Ayn Rand made. But like even Andrew Ryan is meant to represent Ayn Rand, like his name is an anagram of Ayn Rand. He has a similar backstory to Ayn Rand. He was originally in from Soviet Russia or whatever. Or Soviet Union anyways, right? And then traveled to America, and obviously he became wealthy. But I just love the way, and Ken Levine was talking about this about Andrew Ryan. We never wanted to see him, like this what Ken Levine was saying, was like we never wanted to see him plotting.
Oh yeah.
Which is something a lot you would see in like basically not just films but also video games.
Yeah, it's a very cliche thing now.
yeah, for the villain to be like, oh, you see them plotting and you're
Yeah,
crawling in the vent, seeing them do it and stuff. Like,
yeah.
whereas this feels very
It
natural.
feels more realistic. It feels a lot more grounded. Because
Hmm.
like the entirety of your like you whenever you play the game, your perspective of what's happening is never taken off your character. Isn't it Jack? Is your
Hmm.
name?
Yeah.
Yeah, your perspective is never taken off Jack, so you don't know what's going on around you,
Yeah.
other than what you see happening around you and like just the slight glimpses into what's happened through the audio logs and environmental storytelling and all there, and what the characters are saying to you. Like,
Well, I find it funny because like by the time you figure everything out, it's too late.
yeah, you're
You
at the
know,
like you're
which
basically
is
at
just perfect.
you're right outside Andrew Ryan's doorstep.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah, and then he basically tells you, no, you've been wrong the whole time. But then, like, obviously, what I like about the game, and it also goes in the objectivism, it shows what's wrong with that belief
oh
system
yeah,
and why that belief system just isn't functional. Because at the start, you're like, oh, why doesn't this come? Why isn't this not like why is this not used? And you realize through the city itself and what has happened, and Andrew Ryan himself becomes almost like a dictator,
yeah,
where
which
to
is
keep his philosophical belief, he becomes the very thing
yeah,
he sought to fight against.
it's
If you
the
know what I
thing that
mean?
destroyed him because it's what Atlas uses to exploit it
Yeah.
because it's subjectivism, like basically the rich get rich, and it's basically like capitalism on steroids.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
whenever the poor or poor like what you see it a lot whenever you go through the I think it's the dock areas or like the cargo areas, you
Yeah. Yeah.
see a
Yeah.
lot of it. Like Atlas uses that to kind of he uses charity and giving out to people, like giving them aid and all that air stuff as a to exploit them so that he can basically use them for his own revolution,
Yeah.
which then Andrew Ryan can't stop because he doesn't have the favor of the people
And then he seems
anymore
like the
because he
villain.
basically left them there to rot. Yeah,
Yeah. Like it's
and then he
it's
basically
such a
he
good story.
basically goes against his own ideals then by trying to enforce the people,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
loses
Yeah.
even more faith.
Yeah.
So
It's just it's such a like nicely wrapped and it's such a nice
yeah,
tight
the thing
sort
with
of
the story, yeah, the thing with the story is everything works together so well. Like there's
yeah.
not many loose ends in a way. Like everything kind of feeds into each other, like characters' motives and all that their stuff. It all blends so nicely.
Yeah, because like it's just like you can go to a vending machine and buy ammunition,
Mm.
and it
Yeah,
makes sense because in an objectivist society, there are no rules.
yeah, and
You know what I mean?
and the fact that you can hack them as well makes sense because
Mm-hmm.
that's what the poor people had to do
Mm-hmm.
to survive.
Like it's just it's so
Like
so
even
good.
whenever a game makes the mechanics themselves integrated to the world and the story, it
Yeah.
feels so much. It just brings it up that much better, like that much more.
Well, it is just perfect game design. Like,
Oh
um,
yeah,
something that Bioshock 2 has a fault with, and we'll get into that
yeah.
at some stage, I mean.
And Bioshock
But
Infinite has an even bigger fault.
yes, I agree. Like it's where, you know, that yes, the gameplay can be good, but if it doesn't work narratively, there's
Yeah,
no point.
it's basically it's a wee snippet into what I'll probably be saying in the Bioshock Infinite
Yeah,
episode. But everything that we say is great about Bioshock One and even Two. Whenever we get to that, there, I just feel like Bioshock Infinite doesn't have them things.
yeah. Like I don't think, Bioshock could have just been like a normal FPS.
Oh no,
Because it is kind of this RPG
it loses the
mixed with an
immersive.
FPS.
Yeah, it loses the entire immersive sim, like, like genre of it.
Yeah.
Which I mean is what the first one, the second one, not as much, but it's still there. But like, whenever you lose the identity of the game, I mean,
Because it couldn't, like, you couldn't take, I don't know, like, Fallout's gameplay and just put it in, like, Bioshock. You know what I mean? Like, it
yeah.
just wouldn't work. Because, like, the entire environment's surrounded by that kind of,
I wonder
if you know
how
what I mean?
I wonder how Fallout 1 and 2 fans felt about 3 then.
Yeah. No, literally.
Basically
yeah,
making it
yeah.
an FPS.
Because, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But, no, I don't know. It's just...
It's the same with Dragon Age, because I don't know about Dragon Age 2, but I know Dragon Age 1 was like a turn-based,
Mm.
like isometric
And then Inquisition,
fantasy
for
game.
example.
Yeah, and then Inquisition made it was third person.
Yeah, it was pretty much like Mass
Yeah.
Effect, wasn't it?
Yeah, and to me, there's whenever a game loses its identity like that, I don't know.
Yeah. Like, obviously, you can evolve to a point. Like,
Yeah.
I think, like, Far Cry, for example, is a
Oh
great
yeah.
kind of, like, idea of how first one is, like, sort of like an action, man kind of a situation where you're just going around gunning. Second one is this very sort of, like, genuine and real, kind of, like, very realistic kind of
Yeah.
experience. And then 3 is obviously that action man mixed with the realism, and like so
Yeah.
it kind of works, if you know what I mean.
It's the thing with Far Cry 3 is it is action man, but it's kind of see it does the thing with Bioshock where it's kind of worked in with the game, the
It's
story.
grounded.
Yeah, like you don't start off that way. You kind of
You
build.
slowly evolve to that point.
Same with Bioshock as well. You start off with a wrench.
I know.
And
Such an iconic weapon,
yeah.
though, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know
like
what I mean? Like, that's the melee weapon. That's just so iconic.
like you start off with a wrench, and then you get your plasmids, and then you just start slowly working your way up until the
Yeah.
point where you start getting the full arsenal. The entire sandbox is at your heels, like at your feet. Like there's so many ways you can like play the game.
Like, you can literally play the game just using a wrench.
Yeah,
That's
Like,
how good the game is.
like the way the game makes you think in terms of combat is absolutely amazing. Like I remember whenever I played it, what 4 years ago for the first time. Whenever I first saw the Big Daddies, I tried to like plan out what way I would take them out because there is resource management, so you can't just go out guns blazing at them because you're just going to run out of everything. And you have to rely on the wrench, which I mean isn't the best situation against a Big Daddy, but like so like
Yeah.
it's amazing whenever a game makes you do that, makes you kind of plan out what way you're going to tackle a situation. Like I remember having to use the grenade launcher and use the traps just to kind of plan out the battlefield
Yeah,
and lead the
yeah,
Big
yeah,
Daddy
yeah.
through them and everything. And whenever a game does that, there it just kind of, I don't know, it makes it so much better.
But it's not even just that, because there's also, like, speaking about the guns, like when you get a gun, and you can upgrade it through just this, there's one in
Upgrade
each
stations.
level. Example, like,
Yeah.
it physically changes the look of the gun as well.
Yeah, it adds
like
like a
that.
steampunk element to it as well.
Yeah,
Like
to
an Art
get like
Deco
an
meets
attachment.
steampunk. Yeah, like it'll add like pipes or like cogs that spin around on it.
Yeah,
It does make the upgrade themselves feel like substantiated in a way where like
yeah,
I don't know how to like whenever you get like an ammo increase, like a magazine size increase, you will see that physically change the weapon.
yeah. Like, you get like a big massive like barrel next to the
Yeah.
like grenade launcher, for example, that like constantly puts shells down it and stuff.
Yeah, it's like
And it
one of
makes
the
the gun look
funniest upgrades, I
massive.
think. Yeah, doesn't the revolver get like a big drum mag?
Yeah, like
It's
it
one of the
literally
funniest things.
physically changes the gun. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Um,
at the same time, the upgrades themselves actually like works so well into the
Yeah.
Art Deco feel.
because they
so
have this
well
Art
done.
Deco steampunk kind of
Yeah.
design around them as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god.
But no, like plasmids.
The probably it probably is probably the most significant.
It's what people kind of like represent with the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again,
it's what's
it's
si-
integrated.
Yeah, like instead of having it just be a normal shooter, it has that extra feel, extra aspect that just again, plasmids just kind of make you go, this is what's like the interesting part about this game, kind of
Yeah.
like this sort of pseudo magic mix with like
Yeah. A
Kind of-
science.
like
Yeah.
because like the way it's explained in the game, it's like sea slugs, isn't it?
Yeah.
So like whenever you think about that, you're like, well, we don't really know what's at the bottom of the ocean. So like them finding these
Like the Mariana Trench, for
Yeah.
example. Yeah.
like them finding these sea slugs, bit of a tongue twister there, but and then using that there, like it kind of adds to the aspect of not knowing what's in the ocean and then not thinking this could be down there, but at the same time being like, if this was down there, this could be used in this way.
Yeah.
So it kind of grounds it even further, and then then the plasmids and Adam, which come from the sea slugs, just end up causing the entire downfall of Rapture, the Rapture itself. Like
they literally physically change your entire DNA structure.
yeah, and
Yeah.
then people that started abusing
Psychologically
it.
change you then. Yeah.
People started abusing it, and then led to the splicers, and
Mm.
even the aspect of inject, or I don't know if they put the sea slugs inside the little sisters, or they just inject them
Yeah,
or something.
they do. Because
Yeah.
it's basically like a parasite, essentially.
Yeah. And then they become like these atom making machines,
Yeah.
which ethically is absolutely like horrible. But
Yeah.
again, in a society where there's no rules, you can get away with it.
Well, just even the fundamental idea of taking all the great minds in the world, artists,
Artists, musicians,
scientists, everything, right?
philosophers, yeah.
Engineers, yeah, 100%. Like, bring them all down.
And give
But
them
because you have all these different ideas and all these, like, genius level people, they clash with each other then.
yeah,
And then obviously because there's no rules,
because there's no
they,
rules and there's no way
you
to
know,
contain them
or
to like
they
regulate
become
them.
psychotic.
Yeah. Santa Cohen is like
Mm.
example, or even the
like the first example is the doctor,
the plastic surgeon.
plastic surgeon, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Like, he is probably one of the biggest examples of someone, because his whole thing is like, he basically kind of went mental and started
Yeah.
going too far with perfection, quote unquote, with
Yeah.
his patients. So
Well, I think a wee subtle thing would be obviously people who were abusing the plasmids obviously wanted to because it was physically changing their appearance, so he
yeah,
would,
so
like,
they wanted it to get an edge over their
Yeah.
competitors. So like, in his case, I think he used it basically to make him a better surgeon.
yeah. And then he became psychotic and then started cutting people up and then like applying
Yeah.
skin to them and making them look like
Basically, how a lot of the splicers in the game look like is because of him and other surgeons, isn't it? That's why
Mm.
they're so not. It's not the main reason, but it's why a lot of them are kind of deformed, like facially deformed.
Yeah, because I think they based them off a lot of like World War One veterans and victims.
Yeah,
And like burn victims as well, like very early sort of skin grafts and stuff, where it wasn't actually
yeah.
genuinely perfect.
Is it probably chlorine gas victims and stuff?
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
because of that, they had to like get, and obviously it's not as like you can get like a new face now, but back in the day it didn't look, obviously it
you would
wasn't
usually have a
as-
bit of porcelain over
yeah
like over
to
the
protect.
areas. Yeah,
But yeah, which also fits with the Art Deco kind of 1920s kind of tone.
oh yeah,
Um,
because a lot of the splicers wear porcelain masks.
yeah.
I don't know if they're porcelain, but like they wear those types of masks and stuff.
Yeah.
Which really feeds into that 40s to 50s kind of, even 30s, that like, oh, how would you put it, that like party mentality kind of.
Mm.
I don't know if that's the right way to put it.
Oh yeah, like when you'd wear like Gucci mask ball or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
But it also kind of like I always think there's some subtle. I think the first splicer you ever encountered, it's kind of very much like Clockwork Orange
Yeah.
and the mask they wear in that.
I haven't
Like
seen it.
it's very similar. That like I think it must be a small reference though, because
Yeah.
just the first splicer you encountered looks basically has a bowler hat and everything.
Oh yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
No, because I was listening to Ken Levine talk about this, and he was saying they basically tried to find what's the easiest way to introduce plasmids to a person. Like when you pick up a plasmid, it tells you, and it's like 15-second video,
Yeah.
and they're really good.
Yeah. It's like, it has that kind of
1950s
Yeah.
kind of infomercial kind
Yeah.
of thing.
it's something that Folly does a lot as well. It has like,
Yeah,
it's like, it's a bit tongue in cheek,
yeah,
but in like a 50 spin where it's kind of purposefully like that.
yeah. Because like the fire one's obviously for like lighting cigarettes.
Yeah.
that was
Or
the
lighting
idea behind
lighting
it.
fire, like house fires
Yeah.
and stuff.
But like just the fact that he was just like, yeah, he was talking about how he just hates tutorials, like as a whole, because tutorials is drag down the game, and if you're
Yeah.
gonna go replay it again, it's just kind of drag down. Something Bioshock doesn't really have. Like you can see it
Yeah.
sort of does, but that's more of you're more embracing the
See,
world.
the thing with it is, it doesn't have tutorials, but
It's subtle.
everything that like, yeah, it like I know whenever it gives you the electric plasmid,
Mm.
it doesn't tell you. I don't think it tells you. It might tell you like a wee hint or something that comes up on like the hints come up on the side of your
Mm-hmm.
screen. But like whenever you like get it, like shortly after, there's a group of like three splicers standing in a puddle of water,
Mm.
and then I think it comes up a wee hint saying that shooting splicers with electric plasmid in a puddle of water instantly kills them and changes the like lightning throughout the puddle.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that there where it's done through the gameplay instead of actually like holding your hand. Like
Mm.
everything that happens in the game, you could just find out on your own.
Oh yeah, because like every time you get a plasma, that 15-second video or even less,
Yeah,
not only is a tongue-in-cheek thing, right?
yeah,
It's also like a funny thing to watch, but it also tells you everything about that.
yeah, it gives you
Like
the gist
thing.
of what this plasmid is about.
But it's just the fact that it tells you the backstory within the world as to why this was used,
Oh
how
yeah,
you can use it in game, but all in 15 seconds without actually telling you it.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then it also like adds the story itself with how people would exploit that as well,
Yeah.
and how the people never really thought about that, or they
Mm.
thought about it and just
And
didn't
how it
care.
becomes this unstable thing,
Yeah,
essentially, where people throwing fire at each other.
yeah,
Um, yeah, but the what was it like the little sister? The whole backstory behind little sisters were they needed a way to kind of like Adam was sort of like not really thought of until later on.
yeah,
Like there were big daddies from like the start essentially, because they wanted like wee bosses, you know, like a harder enemy to fight. But
yeah.
they found that people would just ignore them.
Yeah, you need an actual like incentive
Yeah.
to take
Because
them
originally
on.
all they did was just give you like normal loot. Like,
Yeah, like
but
for going up against a big daddy, you need an actual substantial reward.
yeah, and that's exactly why they paired him with little sisters and gave
Yeah,
the idea of Adam. But
yeah, but it's the whole history of the little sisters in the game is absolutely amazing. Like, there's like one of the audio log series that you can find is actually quite heartbreaking, where you find out like this woman had her like
oh
child
yeah,
stolen and she doesn't know what happened and all, and you keep finding more audio logs, and then she eventually sees her as a little sister
yeah,
and stuff. Some of it's actually heartbreaking. Like,
oh yeah. Like the good thing is you wouldn't need to like read anything about the game. Everything about the game you can, because like I
it's
think
told
that's
to you
kind of
in
like
the game.
yeah, like that's a downfall. I think the audio logs are a better idea, because you know when you like pick up a book in the video game, you're like,
Yeah.
I'm not fucking reading that. You know what I mean? Like it's
Unless
so
you're me and you
pointless.
every like book in Skyrim you find you just sit
Yeah,
there
because
and
like you stop gameplay, it stops
Yeah.
gameplay. Like if you can have gameplay and listen to it,
yeah,
it's such a better. You know what I mean?
yeah, no, I do, I get you. It is
Um,
done really well. Like you
mm,
can listen, you can have the audio log on and still walk around and like keep doing stuff, keep looting, keep fighting and stuff while it's on in the background.
yeah, like what I wanted to say was what we don't like about the game,
Mm.
and we know the main one, the big one.
Yeah,
It's not necessarily the ending; it's more of the ending boss fight.
yeah, it's the way that the ending comes about. Like this might just be my opinion, but to me, whenever you start to get towards Hephaestus, which is like the big, isn't it like the big reactor area, or is it?
The what?
You know whenever you go to Hephaestus to like shut down Andrew Ryan's like
Yeah.
shield to get to him, it's like the big shield generator you have to build the EMP.
Mm.
Whenever you get to there, or maybe the bit before that, that's whenever I start to lose interest,
Yeah.
because you're taken out of that. Like I don't know, it makes sense like in the game because it's basically like this big factory area, which makes complete sense, and I tend to like it. But whenever you come out of like the entire theme of it and go into this more mundane, not normal, but just there's not much going on in that environment. Then I just kind of feel like that's whenever it starts to come down a little bit.
Mm.
That just might be my opinion, but like,
No, I do agree. I just think the third act does have its problems.
yeah, but it does. Even though it has problems, it still has some like, amazing moments,
Yeah.
which it kind of makes you forgive it in a way.
Because I think everyone does complain about the big boss fight at the end and how it's just very easy.
Yeah, the fight against
And
Frank
it's
Fontaine.
literally just the same thing 4 times.
I can.
It doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, I can. Like you can see what they try to do with like the symbolism to Atlas. So they wanted him to be this big, strong boy,
Hmm.
but like.
Like perfect,
No.
like the perfect man, essentially.
Yeah.
Physically, yeah.
Yeah, and like that's kind of wasn't that like Atlas and Frank Fontaine's kind of thought on Adam, like they could use it to basically make their DNA perfect.
Mm.
So they wanted to well, isn't that like one of the main plot points is like that's why they wanted to like seize Adam production from the Little Sisters.
Yeah.
I might be completely misremembering this, but like, yeah, the fight though is it's not good.
Yeah, no, it's not.
It takes you out of the game. It's too. This is like what my problem with Bioshock Infinite was as well. It's like it's too fantasy-ish, where
Yeah.
it takes you out of it. It takes you out of that grounded reality of it, and just
Mm.
kind of like just makes you it makes you question it, which is probably what the game like that doesn't want you to do because everything is so wrapped up nicely, and then it makes you question it, and then, you know.
And then, of course, like the end of the film, the end of the game sort of works because it's like you have this 2 different endings. But
Yeah.
you don't realize there's 2 until the end. Like the choices you've
Yeah.
been making with the Little Sisters, for example, have determined your outcome.
Yeah,
And like the Little Sisters are a great design point where it's like, right, you can harvest it to get more, or you can just wait and get less and have less upgrades.
Yeah.
But they give you a gift every once in a while of like a tonic or something.
Yeah, the gifts that they give are actually useful, but at the time you might think, oh, I could just use more Adam now. But then you don't know that affects the actual, ending of the game.
Yeah.
So you don't until you actually get there. And then it makes sense. So it does.
Mm.
But
Because
yeah.
sorry.
No, go on.
No, because like you do have that sense of morality then at the end where it's like, oh, if you get the bad ending where, oh, you just become another one of these people in Rapture.
Yeah, like the bad
You know what I
ending.
mean?
Again, this is going to go into even bigger spoiler territory. So if
I
anyone-
mean, no one's listening to this that hasn't played.
yeah,
the
that
fucking
is fair. Like, what is it? It's basically the bad ending is you basically take control of Rapture and use the splicers to take over like the mainland, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then you can't. Then like the Little Sisters hate you, or the good ending, you take all the Little Sisters, not all of them, but like the ones you saved up to the surface, and then you basically have them be your own daughters as you live out your life.
Well,
It's
like,
quite
either
sad.
ending makes sense.
Yeah, it makes
Because-
complete sense.
You've basically listened to Ryan.
Yeah.
Because
Either
it's like,
way,
right, you are a free man now. You
Yeah,
can, like, at the
you-
end, you have that choice.
You
know
can
what I
then
mean?
make your own fate, like.
Mm.
But I will say the good ending is so sad, but it's so like it's like a nice sad.
It
Where like
works.
because
Yeah.
like it's one of those situations where your character ended up having peace afterwards,
Mm.
and like the Little Sisters ended up having their own lives back and get to live them out. But like you get to know that your character like had a good life.
And
do you wish more games
obviously,
did?
what?
I wish more games did that. We're not like an
Yeah.
after credit scene kind of, but like you kind of get this satisfactory ending to your character
Mm.
where you know that like okay, their story is now complete
Mm.
in a way.
They don't need another game.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
yeah.
Which I
But,
mean, we see perfectly well in the Bioshock
Well,
series.
but obviously both endings are canon, which we'll get into
Well, the
when we
thing
talk
is-
about Bioshock Infinite sometime.
Yeah. I thought for a second there, I thought you were talking about the fact that like I don't think it ever really is explained in Bioshock 2, other than maybe whenever you talk to Tenenbaum.
Yeah.
Like you never hear what happens with the characters in Bioshock
We'll
2
we'll,
and
we'll,
Bioshock
we'll
1.
get we'll get to my theories in Bioshock 2 as a whole
Yeah.
sometime as well.
Can I
Cause
just say I absolutely despise the infinite timeline thing.
you see the thing, right? I don't think we should.
Oh,
We're not going to talk about it a lot, but
I'm
Infinite to
just
me, the only reason I like it is because I hate Bioshock 2 because it breaks so many things continuity wise with the first game. And it
But
really
then if you think
annoys
about it,
me.
Infinite does it even more, but does it worse?
But the thing about Infinite is it can make sense because of the theory it
Ah,
implies. So it
but at
gets
the
away
same,
with that, for example. That's the
see,
only way I give it a pass.
that's the main difference I have with you there is like you're all okay with that, but to
Yeah.
me the entire fundamental thing about like interdimensional travel and everything, that is the thing that I don't like. That's the thing that I was talking about with the Bioshock One boss fight. It's something that is too fantasy or fiction
Yeah.
that brings you out of it, and I absolutely hate that about Infinite because
Mm.
it completely destroys the grounded reality of everything that's
Mm.
happening, and I think that's the biggest drawback from that for me. Like, because I think, and then that just breaks down the entire game to me. So it
Yeah.
does. But again, you can have your own
Um,
opinion about it.
we
That's
will
just
we will get into it. I don't want to get
I
too
will
heavy
be
into it. But
ranting about that in the Bioshock Infinite episode.
for those wondering, that we are going to make 3 episodes of this because
Yeah, it'll
we
be
can't
too much.
strictly we can't strictly talk like we're what like 45 minutes into this one already, you know.
Yeah, I think especially with Bioshock 2 and Minerva's Den, and then you
Yeah,
have
and
Infinite
Infinite
and
and
Burial
its
at Sea 1 and
DLCs.
2.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
it's a lot on our plate.
Well, actually, speaking on DLCs, I mean, we're going to come back to Bioshock in a minute, but have you played any of the like other additional content that comes with it? The first one.
I didn't know there was.
Yeah, like there's 3 little missions you can play. They're all these like
Hmm.
self-contained levels, and it's really interesting because they're like puzzle games.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like you can. One is there's a little sister trapped on top of a Ferris wheel, and you have no guns or any
Yeah.
weapons. The only thing you have is telekinesis, and you have to like basically somehow find a way to electrocute a button 7 times to
Hmm.
get her down from the carousel. But then there's like there's so many different ways to do it. Like there's a tonic you can get that if you get hit, an electric charge releases from you, so that can charge it. There's electric bolts from the crossbow. There's splicers that are have electric powers on them, so when they like
Yeah.
smash down, it will electrocute the thing. Like it's a night.
That's
That's only one of
cool.
the levels.
Are they like contained stories, or are they
Oh,
more
they're not even
just?
stories. It's just little
Is it just
mini
little set
things.
pieces?
Yeah, it's kind of fun. Like
Yeah.
they're really
That's
fun.
cool.
I just like the
That's
fact that
really
it's
cool.
just so like the game couldn't have it and it wouldn't
Yeah.
change anything.
I like
But it's
whenever the
just for
game.
people who
Yeah.
want to. It because there's a timer as
It's
well. You can speed run it.
I think it's for people that want to get more out of the sandbox
Yeah,
that they couldn't in the game, so they give you these challenges, which I think
yeah.
is an amazing way. Whenever you have such a wide and like, diverse sandbox, giving
Mm.
you these little ways to like challenge yourself with the things that you're given in a way that you couldn't in the main game is just fantastic with a game
But
like
it's
that.
also something you saw in video games at that time, which were most additional content were like little challenges.
Yeah,
You know, something you could see in like the Metro games, for example, like Metro Last Light,
yeah,
where you
yeah.
had these challenge kind of things,
Like the one where you had to go out into the radio, like you had to go out and get I forget what one, but like
and you had to collect stuff.
yeah, you had to collect stuff and you would get
Oh,
points to be able to
so
upgrade yourself.
amazing! That
We'll
should
get.
have been a game, David.
I know it should have been.
uh,
We need
that
to do
was an
it. We need to do
amazing
a
level.
Metro.
We will be doing a
Episode.
Metro trilogy, I imagine.
Yeah, do the same thing with this. But yeah.
Yeah. We'll
Back to
probably do it on when before or what you call it, Stalker 2 comes out,
Mm. Oh yeah, that'd
which
be
would
very
be
fitting.
rather fitting.
That'd be very fitting.
Um. Anyways, back to Bioshock. Back to Bioshock.
Yeah, I was just gonna say another thing that I absolutely hated about not hated, but like it really made the game drag is that whenever you have to become a big daddy, and you have to do the
Yeah,
escort
that's
mission.
one of the weakest part. That is one
That
thing.
is.
Like I understand narratively, and I
Yeah.
understand why like when you're first doing it, you're like, oh, this will be cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna
But
become a
then you're
big
just as
daddy.
weak as what you are.
Yeah, but except you have a big fish, like a fisheye lens, is it? Where like
Yeah.
you're like half your screen is gone.
Yeah. Like I like the idea, and I like, the thing is, it's an entire level.
Yeah, and it drags because you have to constantly keep defending the little sisters.
Yeah.
One thing that annoys me so much about that as well is see whenever you do put on the suit and everything, whenever you really reload your guns and all, your character
Yeah.
is still wearing the jumper.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it
I know.
annoyed me so much whenever I first played the game. I was like, oh, you couldn't have just gave him gloves.
Yeah, I know. We see, this is the thing, because I understand, like, narratively it makes sense.
It could have
And
even been like a technological standpoint. They just didn't have time or anything to do it.
yeah. Oh, I mean, like, weird to say this had a low budget, but it was 30 million.
Yeah,
But like for a video game, that's not really.
yeah.
And it looks great, but like I completely understand why. Because like when you're playing a game, it's just like, oh yeah, I'd love to be Big Daddy in this. Something they've taken into obviously Bioshock 2 for a reason.
Which I just like, I think it did that amazingly.
Huh?
I think Bioshock 2 did that amazingly. With
Yeah,
Big
like
Daddy.
I think that was like one of the few things I like about Bioshock 2 is
Yeah.
that was a smart decision to make.
I feel like
Because also it's also a great way to have a silent protagonist, because we know of these characters
yeah,
and they are silent,
yeah, you
so we
physically
don't
can't
question
talk.
it. Yeah.
As I was going to say, I have a feeling our Bioshock 2 episode is just going to be you saying everything you don't like and me just saying everything I like.
And then Minerva's Den, where we're just gonna be like loving Minerva's Den.
Yeah,
how good it
Minerva's
is.
Den is just going to be us going through the entirety of it, being like, this is the best
this-
thing that's
this-
ever
this,
come
like-
from the Bioshock series.
Yeah, it's basically like this part. It's just like this episode, but just for Minerva's Den.
Except the thing with Minerva's Den is I don't think it has any weak points. So like, there's
Yeah.
nothing to really criticize of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to that whenever we get to it.
Any more thoughts on Bioshock?
I'm trying to think. One thing I will say is it has such an amazingly diverse like set design in all of its
Yeah.
all of its like like because the way it works is there's a lot of missions, but each mission is kind of its own little contained area with its own little theme. Like you have Arcadia, which is like the kind of like these botanical gardens, which have like these splicers that have become like pagans,
Yeah.
which
yeah,
I
and the
think is
teleport.
really like the Houdini
Yeah.
splicers, and
Yeah,
they're called
yeah.
like you have like all these like pagan spice, which kind of makes sense because they're like in like this nature area, and like
Yeah.
pagans worship like mostly like Celtic and kind of Viking stuff, where like they would
they're all in their little caves. Of all
yeah,
the,
and they
yeah,
would
yeah, yeah.
worship like spirits and like forest creatures and all that other stuff. So it makes sense to have like these like pagan splicers develop in these like areas where like they're building effigies to stuff and all, and you have like Houdini splicers, which is probably like one of the it might be like one of the only jump scares in the game that is actually like terrifying. And it's like one of the ones I can think of is whenever you first encounter the Houdini splicer and he's just standing right behind you whenever you turn around.
Yeah.
And I still remember that. It scared the hell out of me.
I mean, the worst thing is we could sit here for ages and just talk about this thing.
Oh yeah, we could sit here for ages talking about all the levels. But I think one thing that we have to talk about is Fort Frolic, because I think it would be
Yes.
I think that would be a huge disservice to the
Yes.
game to not discuss probably the best area
Yeah.
and one of the best characters.
Of course. I mean, right. You start.
Yeah.
I'm getting excited
So-
here. You start.
Basically, it's like the whole like theatrical district to Rapture, where you get to see like all the art, not the art, like the artists, theater.
Well, there's
people,
more
the
like the
musicians,
artistic
Yeah.
aspect. Yeah.
like all those aspects kind of coincide, and then you
Cohen.
get.
Yeah,
Glad you
I see
caught
what you
on to
did there,
that.
David.
I was hoping someone would cop on. And you have Sandra Cohen, who's like this big theatrical person, this big artistic.
So flamboyant.
Yeah, basically has you run
Such
around
a character,
performing atrocious things. Like
but so entertaining.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is like watching the Joker.
Yeah, because you
It
have this
essentially is like
absolute
watching the Joker.
madman.
Yeah.
Like, have you go around, kill these people, take pictures of them, and then put them up on display in this big, this big, like, is, like these people, like, encased in stone, like, just, like, trapped in this big artistic, like, statue.
Yeah, like this paint, and then you have to go and
For
take. You have to go and kill for him and take
Yeah,
photos.
because he basically traps you in Fort Frolic and you can't leave.
Yeah.
So he basically has you like finish his masterpiece, as he calls it.
Mm.
And one thing I will say is quite funny is the fact that, you know, whenever you do that there and you basically have your big final boss, you have your final big like arena fight against all the slicers.
Mm.
One thing I didn't know whenever that happened is I basically had traps lying everywhere. And my first time playing is I had, you know, the stairs he comes down.
Mm.
I didn't know this would actually happen, but I had a tripwire on them stairs from the fight because I like laid out everything. And he walked into it, which cut his dialogue short because he started attacking me and had like a little mini boss fight.
Oh yeah, you can fight him. That's the thing.
Yeah, and I was so sad because I found out later if you don't fight him, you can find him dancing in one of the apartment rooms with some woman. And I was like, oh, I wish I had.
I like the fact that there is that choice.
Yeah.
But you can or can't. You know what I mean?
And I was so sad that I actually like my own like gameplay, like the way that I did that situation kind of had its own repercussions, and I was like, that's cool. Especially
like,
compared to all the other bosses, which are kind of one and done. Like you have the surgeon, you have the
well,
dock
just the
worker.
fact that you have your radio cut off for all this, and he demands all your attention essentially.
Yeah, which I mean, narratively makes sense for him as a character because he's like this theatrical person who wants all the eyes to be on him. So he just cuts you off from the rest of the world and even starts like talking to you through like the radio, like kind of going on with it. But one of the best introductions to him is whenever the guy's sitting there playing the piano with a bomb strapped to it, and he basically just breaks down and he just mercilessly kills him because he just couldn't do it anymore.
Right, I don't care about like the copyright inflictions. Right, I'm gonna play the soundtrack of the piano and that because it's fucking Sander Cohen's soundtrack. Good. I think it's called Cohen's Masterpiece. I'm gonna play that right now. I don't care about copyright infringement. Fuck it. And that was amazing. Wasn't it?
It was glorious. Loved every
but
second.
That wee snippet, like it is such a beautiful sort of just piece. I don't know. It's just because it's so it's very much like him because it's a very uneven. It feels out of tune.
It feels like you're in the mind. You can see it because you get a sense of what his mind is like, where it's so unstable.
But
so
I'm gonna end on this, and I think this is the thing. Have you heard of the Plan movie?
I have not. I don't think
it was gonna be Gore Verbinski was gonna direct. Gore Verbinski, famous for Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh.
Rango. More recently, he did The Cure for Wellness, but he's also doing a film I'm very excited about called Spaceless, which is about an astronaut who wakes up in space in the middle of nowhere, doesn't know how he got there, and he's only accompanied by an AI, and he's just slowly gonna basically die. But
that sounds really cool.
This is a quote from Verbinski. He only recently talked about this, saying it was talked about as one movie, and it was strange. My first meeting at Universal on Bioshock was sitting in a room and saying, "Hey guys, this is a 200 million R-rated movie." And it was silent, and I remember my agent going, "Why did you say that?" And he just said, "I'm like, because it is. Why just even trying to kill a movie you haven't even started? That's before getting a scripted, before anything." But like at the same time, you gotta kind of realize this was pre, like Deadpool. You know, this was like pre, like because Deadpool kind of like set the tone. I was gonna say
as soon as he probably said R-rated, the switches went off.
Yeah. Well, because the whole belief was they wanted PG-13, and you know what I mean, like because what the big one that the big problem that happened was Watchmen had just come out, and Watchmen was a really high budget R-rated film that didn't make a lot of money because it was a high budget R-rated film. You know what I mean? Because high budget R-rated films is something we've only really seen recently. Obviously, like I said before, Deadpool being
Yeah, that was one
the
of isn't
first
it?
one that made money.
Yeah, that's kind of one that made people think, oh god, we can actually make money off of this.
I think that was just superheroes in general, though.
Yeah,
I think it was the right genre.
like if it wasn't Deadpool and if it was some like obscure.
Because
R-rated
Logan
movie.
did it then, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah. The Deadpool film. Sorry, fuck, no, the Bioshock film that was never made.
Yeah, quite sad because I think something like that would be like it would be nice to see like a live action rendition of Rapture.
Yeah. It would just cost so much. I think
Yeah, it would.
nowadays it's kind of the best way to do it would be a TV show.
Yeah.
I think now because you have, you know, these high budget TV shows that have the, you know, budget of films, that is very doable now.
Oh yeah, like we saw with Game of Thrones, and I don't know if there's any news about the Lord of the Rings Amazon TV show.
No news I've heard yet.
Yeah, but like we're getting we're getting the Halo TV show, we're getting the Fallout TV show and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it is kind of becoming a lot more.
Like the Last of Us TV show, I think's
Oh yeah.
gonna be like a 10 million episode or something, or 20 million episode.
Yeah.
20 million episode, I think. Yeah.
Jesus.
You know, that's quite, you know, small scale kind of a thing. But yeah, obviously that kind of sums it up, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's all the leaks and stuff and all the news about Bioshock 4, but we don't.
That'll
really
be something we
know too
touch
much.
on in Infinite, I imagine.
Yeah.
Just to kind of wrap it all up.
Yeah, that'd be a
But,
nice little bow. But yeah, Bioshock 1, one of the greatest games ever made, and it still
Yes.
holds up to the day up till
Good
today
point.
with one of the best stories and twists.
And
I like how we
soundtrack.
went through this without even talking about the twist.
I don't really want to because it's just so
Yeah.
well known. It's been talked to
It's
death.
so well known, and it's something that yeah.
Well,
once
my
you-
whole thing is it's not the takeaway I feel from the thing.
yeah, it's
Like it's the thing everyone talks about, and it is the thing you take away after.
it's
but the
the
more
thing.
you play it, the more you kind of realize it's the least sort of thing you should talk about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
At the same time, it kind of led to a bit of a detriment to Bioshock 2 as well, which we'll probably talk about
Yeah.
with the lack of it. What it was kind of done in Minerva's Den, but in the main game, the fact that it didn't have that twist to
Well,
live up
it's not
to
just
it.
the twist. I think.
Well, I mean, just the story in general.
Dude, we're gonna talk about this for another hour because you know
I
you're gonna
know,
get me.
we
You're
have to
gonna get me
stop.
riled up, and I'm gonna talk about how shit that game.
And I'll try
You know
my
I
best
fucking
to
hate that
somewhat
game.
defend it.
Shit game. But
Yeah.
the only you didn't even play the multiplayer of that fucking
Yeah,
game, so you
true.
can stop.
So the way I look at the
Um,
Bioshock games is, I love 1, I love 2 in a lot of
There's-
ways,
Touchy
And I-
relationship with Infinite.
and then I despise Infinite.
Yeah.
Not despise. It has ideas that aren't there.
If it wasn't a Bioshock game, you'd love it.
If it wasn't a Bioshock game, I would never pick it up. I wouldn't go near it.
But yeah,
Yeah, that's Bioshock.
we will not be back next week for Bioshock
Mm.
2, but the week after.
Mm.
I don't know what we're doing next week. I think we're doing Space Jam. Him for a bit. Oh, fuck, I have to watch them. Yeah, pleasure talking to you, Dave,
As always, anytime.
and we'll see you soon.
Best of luck.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks for watching.
For watching.
God damn.